You're listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg University in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Today's Friday, May 1st, 2026. The weather outside is cloudy and 65 degrees. Tonight we'll have showers and a low of 41. I'm Owen Henning here with your hosts, Luke Rainey and Andrew Mercier, and we're also joined today by Tyler Senkowski. Both Tyler and I will be hosting the show next year, so welcome everybody to the show.
Thank you. What a pleasure it is to be here, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is one I've been very excited for, and, glad Tyler was able to join us eventually. Had to drive a little bit to get here, but we're all good. But very excited. I can't believe it's May 1st. Luke, we got, 8 days now?
8 days till we graduate, but for as far as we're concerned in this studio, this is our last ride. I was the news director, obviously, for the station, and I did my last newscast on Wednesday, so this is the last show for me. So, sobering moment, but here we are, and we're doing things a little bit differently, obviously, here with Owen and Tyler as they prepare to take over next year, but time to do some reflection, I guess, on what these past 2 years have been, and perhaps even what these past 4 years have been here on campus. So, I just will to start off, I'm not sure, as far as Q&A, how we want to do this here exactly with you guys in the studio, with all four of us just talking here as we kind of pass the torch in today's episode. But more than anything, Owen, we had you on the show earlier. Can you just give us a rundown again of who you are exactly, what brought you into Kappa Sigma? And I'd say, Tyler, once Owen's done, you can give your answer as well.
Yeah, sounds good. For me personally, I'm Owen Henning. I joined Kappa Sigma last fall. What brought me in was really the brotherhood. I love everyone that I've met, and I loved everyone that I met this semester before. That's what inclined me to join Kappa Sigma. A little bit about me. I am 21 years old. I am a member of the U.S. Air National Guard, and I am the newly elected treasurer of Kappa Sigma starting next year.
Okay, how about you, Tyler?
My name is Tyler Senkowski. I'm a sophomore going in my junior year. I've been a part of Kappa since my spring freshman year. It's been a very fun ride. I love all those guys there. They've given me such good advice and good direction to really push myself. And yeah, I'm just really excited. I'm also a communications major as well.
Yep, so this is your wheelhouse right here, with obviously WSYC falling in that student media umbrella. But I guess the question I want to ask you guys is, obviously Andrew and I, we're scouting out interest as far as who would want to host the show, but what brought you two here towards the surface, if you will, and willing to try and pass the torch next year to you guys?
To be honest, I think that I've honestly loved your guys' show since, honestly, the same year I was becoming a new member. I listened to it a lot. I remember Andrew was telling me that he wanted to get me on, and honestly, the creative direction I really want to bring to this show is bring a great conversation with all of Greek life and just all kind of come together and really just have that big podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talk radio. How about you, Owen?
For me, I was never really interested in doing a podcast before, and then I came on in the fall or winter, whatever you want to call it, and I really enjoyed my time, and I thought it was a fun episode to do. And it really just drove me to want to do it a little bit more. And I've seen what you guys have created here, and I want it to carry forward. So I hope to keep it up to the same standard, maybe push it a little further.
Yeah, well, we told the story before on the show, but it all started 2 years ago, junior year. I was a newly initiated brother at that point, and Andrew had the idea. I'm not sure, Andrew, did you have the idea to host this show? How long was that kind of cooking up in your head before you kind of brought it to the floor and said, all right, let's do this? And we talked to Bridget Allen, of course, the director of the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life at the time. But how did you decide, okay, this is what we're going to do? And or at least when did that happen?
So I'd actually say the idea of it probably starts stemming at the end of the spring semester. So the semester that you rushed the fraternity. I was actually in a class called Basic Media Production, Com 284. I had David Oliver, and one of our assignments for the class was to create a podcast, and that's where I teamed up with Ryland Walls, and from there we really enjoyed the talk show. That then stemmed into us creating Beyond the Game, which was a sports talk show. We ran that for about a year. Sadly, we kind of just had different schedules this year, so we weren't really able to continue the show, but I had a lot of fun doing that because I was able to talk about something that I really liked. And the main thing was I wanted to get more involved in the major. So it was that. Plus, I wanted to mend the relationship between Greek life and student media. As Luke and I were two of the rare people that were kind of in both. We were kind of being pulled both ways. So yeah, I would say it started then. I just, from the moment I did my first podcast, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is awesome. And I just wanted to get more experience within student media. So we came together and ultimately talked to Bridget Allen and then Jenna Cornell, and here we are. For our last ride.
I remember at Basic Media Production, I did that third semester, so I took that class a semester earlier than you. But I remember my partner and I, we interviewed somebody from the Learning Center who I had known personally because I was tutoring there for some time. But we actually, as we were recording that, one of the co-hosts, we didn't have his microphone turned on, so we had to re-record every single line that he said during that. So it was definitely a little bit of redneck engineering your way around the project, if you will. But that's kind of such as life as far in the media world. But just moving forward. Andrew. The show's evolved here, I'd say, and I think over the past 2 years, we've gotten better, obviously, at taking the audio sound bites before, and of course, we went from we were standing up here, I remember just talking in the microphone, like rotating positions and having to constantly signal to each other and everything like that, and to actually being able to get some two-way communication going on between the rooms. Can you just talk about how I guess our skills in this studio have evolved a little bit since it started? Because I certainly feel a lot more comfortable behind this microphone than I ever did whenever I was first in this studio 2 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like we were stepping into a world of unknown, uncharted territories. I'd done video productions for class and stuff like that, but I had never done anything that was live production at that point. This actually, long story short, this pushed me to get more involved in live sports coverage, which I plan to continue after graduating next Saturday. But, I would say that we've just grown immensely. Our chemistry together is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I could take videos from, when I was by myself or when I was with Luke Hilligus. It was a completely different episode. And, that's no shade on myself or Luke.
Right.
It was just the chemistry that you and I have is, unmatchable in some cases. And I really hope that these two can gel. And, ultimately there is going to be some growing pains, and that's completely okay. But, I remember us all standing there, and we'd push the chairs in the back, and we would just kind of walk up. And I remember at the beginning, no one from any other organization pretty much wanted to come on. It was
this predated you two, yeah.
It was a struggle. I mentioned it last week. Many people referred to it as Kappa Speaks because it was just kind of us bringing the brothers on. And at that point, I was worried that we were even going to get it to the second semester. And luckily, we had Haley Mosteller and Celia Pack. I was getting a little ahead of myself there, from the Katie Phi Nas sorority that came on, and that kind of changed the game.
Well, you also elevate, I think, a little bit social media from that perspective. We actually did a little bit more promotion, and I credit you, obviously, for all of that, because I don't know if I ever had the bug for it, but that was a big turning point, I felt like, for the program, was at least getting word out there a little bit. This is what we were up to, and it wasn't last spring. We tried to get the 4-person setup going. It was Theo. He was the first guinea pig for it. Worked on air, did not work whenever we went to record it. So everything was good on air, but it wasn't good on the software we were using. So had to flip some things around. Tried again in the fall and did an episode with Jesus Estrada from Katie Phi, and then that worked in its own way, and we stuck it out ever since. I think, again, the format works so much better now. But I'd say overall, though, like I said, I want this episode to not just be a reflection on what this show has been, and even then, we've already, obviously, we've had you on before, and maybe Tyler, we haven't had you on before, but I don't necessarily want this to sort of be us interviewing you, but just more of I just want to talk. 8 days from now, I don't know the next time I'm not going to see you guys again. I'm sure. Are you guys planning to stick around on graduation day? When are you guys leaving next week?
I have to go home because I'm starting my job at the Frederick Keys again. So awesome. I will be doing that the entire summer, about 40 hours a week. Yeah. So fun. But
what day you leaving?
Thursday, which I'm not excited about because I really want to come to graduation with you guys, but I have to watch my little brother and dog for like a week because my parents are going to be gone. So a little more responsibility back at home.
Well, that's natural. I mean, I didn't go to any graduations whenever I was here, so that it makes total sense. Are you around, or when are you going home, or when's your next adventure, I guess, after finals weekends for you?
I believe my last final is on Friday, actually, so I should be able to stay around.
Right.
And I'm excited. I would love to hear just you guys talking for a lot of this episode. I'd like you guys to pass down that wisdom, that hard-earned wisdom.
Well, I think here's the thing. I mean, when it comes to like this graduation aspect, like I remember thinking about this in like past semesters. This is especially the case in freshman year for the friends that I had in my first year. Was like going into finals week. My biggest thing was I don't know when the last time I'm going to see everybody is. I didn't really think in that way the past 2 years, just because. Well, I knew I was going to see everybody again. 3 months is not that long of time, but this one's different because I don't want to say forever because that's not true. I hope it's not true, but I don't know the next time it would be. Like, I don't have that certain date for next time, and I guess that's what makes this difficult for me, Andrew. I mean, would you agree with that? That's where I struggle right now because, like, I know people are just going to leave when they need to leave based on their schedules, but the last time I see them, it could be as early as right now. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree on that, and makes me really sad because I feel that, especially this past year, my last term on exec board, I tried to make it a mission to interact with every brother in the fraternity, and then obviously our new members. I was very involved with them. But I tried to have at least some type of connection with every member, and I feel that I, did a pretty good job at that. And it's a little bittersweet. We have senior send-off tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's always been me on the opposite, on the other side, kind of, saying goodbye to the seniors that I've known, and now I am the senior, and it's just kind of a natural thing of life. And again, it's just very bittersweet, and It comes back to the station as well, like. The amount of people that I've met and really gotten to talk to in this station. I mean, I was just calculating it the other day. Counting this episode, this will be 44 episodes. 44 times we have went live on 88.7 FM. Live here in Shippensburg, in Shippensburg, the town, on the university. I think that's just astonishing, and, I'm so proud of what we were able to do, and so proud of, what we were able to create. As I said, I know it's kind of backtracking, but back in the day, like, no one would come on. It was kind of like it was almost like we had to force people to get on, and that's not what I wanted. And I think it was the Haley and Celia episode that kind of changed everything. And then we had Sophia Whalen. From AO Pi the very next week. At that point, we hadn't had any sorority members, and that was back-to-back weeks with 2 sorority members, and I learned so much. I mean, I never even knew the structure of sorority recruitment before this show. And, another episode I think back on is Izzy Kemp. I think that was arguably our best episode of all time.
Sid's as well, KBG last fall.
I think there's so many that I could talk about, and, it's crazy looking at our beginning episodes compared to now, and we're just so different. But I'll pass things back over.
Well, we're going to take a quick pause here in the studio. So again, this is our final episode of Andrew and I hosting Greek Speak here. But again, it's Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. We're back on air here for Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM, and just talking about some of the past episodes we had. I mean, I really felt like we talked about like Izzy, Sid's episode from the fall were outstanding. I would say though, like whenever we have our own brothers come in, and it's a natural thing, Andrew, that those episodes are a bit easier to do than others. The preparation isn't nearly as extreme. We already know half the things we need to know going into the show about the brothers just as is, so there's really no mystery there. And I would say I think my absolute favorite episode still has to, well, not still, I wouldn't say that, but it absolutely has to go to whenever Brett Organtini and Mike Castle were on here. I really felt like I was in a different state during that conversation where we were interviewing 2 people who had just this story to tell about a profession that drives a lot of emotions, number one, but they told it in ways that we've never seen that side of them, not on the show, but I would say in life. Like we know Mike Castle and Brett Ortino. You've known him for 3 years. I've known him for 2, and that was just such a novel thing. We were able to bring that out in this show.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I was sitting right here next to Mike, and I knew a little bit about his family history within law enforcement, but just the deep history and the deep respect that his grandfather had in the community. I mean, almost had me tearing up. I mean, Mike was tearing up a little bit, and it started to get to me a little bit. So, as you just said, like, I've known these people for 3 years, and I've never seen that side. Now, is that showing that maybe we never talked in that setting? Probably, but still, I think it was absolutely incredible to get to see that side. And those were 2 guys that have been huge supporters of the show for ever since the beginning.
Right.
It was hard to get them on because of scheduling conflicts, but I'm really glad we got that one done. But I do want to just kind of ask Owen and Tyler. You guys have been people that have listened to the show. What are some things that you've taken from the show? Is there a favorite episode that you've listened to? Is there something that you learned from any of the episodes that we've produced over the years?
I think I listened to the one where you guys had TJ on. I remember that was a one that I think I listened to, and then I think the other one I listened to was Brett and Castle too.
Yeah.
I think that I also listened to that as well. But I think what I want to take from you guys is honestly just having a really good speaking voice. I think that that thing of like having like a strong voice and wanting to like sound good like for your audience, I think is a really big thing. And also just like asking good questions and making sure that we're not just having a dry interview. I think that's
Right.
extremely important when it comes to like interviewing people. We don't want to just say no, you know what I mean, and just make it all serious and everything. I want to have fun with it.
And that skill, it grows over time, trust me. Because the questions that we ask now, I think, are a step better. And we also, like, again, the chemistry in the studio, that absolutely matters between host and host. But, I'm curious, because I know obviously you were on it last fall, but have you had any other standout moments, I guess?
Honestly, everything that you guys have done stands out to me with this podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly inspiring, and I think the most inspiring thing for me is the conversational ability that I see out of both of you. And Luke Hilligus was on for a while. He's up there too. But you guys just carry a conversation so well, and also I think it shows how well you carry this podcast. You do your research beforehand now. You talk to the people that are going to come on, and me and Tyler, I think, are going to try to carry that forward, obviously. And we're going to try to get a lot of involvement from other organizations as well. That's our goal. We're going to, I don't know, Tyler, I think, had some ideas about talking to some sororities about coming on here pretty frequently.
Yeah, I think I just want to make this podcast more of a an open space where we can all just talk to each other and just honestly make this a more raw and comfortable conversation, because I feel like one of the biggest things with podcasts now is it's so dry and it can get really boring. I want to make it feel like everyone can come on, we can have a normal and great conversation like we're having right now for such an outstanding episode that we're about to have. So it's you just want to bring that comfortability factor to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a good podcast or a good radio show is one that just sounds like it's happening naturally, and there's no pre-work that's done. And at least there's a lot of pre-work that goes into it. There's a lot of research that goes into it still, but you kind of have to guide the conversation in a way that sounds extremely natural. And that's what I think where we segue on different topics and we move back and forth a lot. I think that's a big part of why that setup works. And again, gotten a lot better over the past 2 years, but I don't know. I mean, I just say there's also just broadening it out a little bit, just highlights from the past year in Kappa Sigma, because I want to talk about memories in Greek life in general. Obviously, Tyler, you came in last spring, so you've been around for a little over a year. Owen, your new member experience was last fall, so you've seen it for less than a year. But just talk about some highlights from the year, I guess, with our chapter.
I think one of my favorite moments are I think also winning Greek Week. That was amazing, by the way. I just want to say that was one of the funnest weeks I think I've had on campus in a long time. All of the brothers just being together and us competing in all the competitions, just having fun. That was a big thing. I think also just meeting everyone, especially with my class. Especially I want to shout out Mason, Lucid, and Gian. Those are my dogs. I think just connecting with people, honestly. I've not had a bad interaction or bad conversation with anyone in our organization, because we're always just so open to just having a good conversation, just having fun. And I think that's that's something that I really do value here, and that, why I joined. So, yeah.
I would say for me personally, the guys that I've met has been the best experience that I've made here. And also, quick backtrack, I want to give PSK a big shout out for their lip sync, because that was amazing. They rightfully beat us in that case, I think.
Yeah.
100%.
We talked about it last week. I mean, whenever we had KBG in the studio, it's just that's hard to top. So we can't even. It's one of those. It was so good you can't even be mad at it.
Yeah, I remember the PSK brothers were in here, 2 weeks ago, was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and they were talking about going for that 5-peat, and honestly, I think they put up their best effort. They did a really good job.
Well, that's the thing as well, because like we knew we knew there was going to be a challenge, and I'm not sure like how we all felt about it, but what really was the key was, and you guys had a role in this on that Sunday, was making a big statement early on in the week, because there's a lot. That's a huge point swing, because you have a lot of games on it, and that's what I talked about last week, where it's back-to-back games, like 4 or 5 things happening within the span of an hour. Whereas by the time you get to Monday, okay, you have volleyball or whatever, then you have the spelling bee, but they're both spaced out. Like those are the only 2 events of the day, other than the medallion hunt. So that's where the beginning, just having that sort of, it wasn't quite a sweep. We were 4 for 5, I think, in the beginnings in that beginning window, but that was close enough. I mean, that's all we need to do is get ourselves going the right way. But I mean, on that point, I talked about this last week too, but I would say my favorite memory of the year was a spelling bee. I don't know. Were you in that time? Like, were you watching it?
I wasn't there, sadly.
Okay.
I had a class, which was I was so sad to miss that.
Yeah.
But either
you
way,
were there.
I watched
Owen was
that.
there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you know how to spell that word now?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely do. So the word of the day that got me, it was ecclesiastic. So I told the story about Sean and I just kind of, it was round after round after round for almost 30 minutes straight after everybody else was eliminated, and yeah, the word was ecclesiastics. That's a ECCLESIASTIC. So that's how you spell it. Messed up the beginning portion, but that's the word that got me. But it was a dogfight. But I would say to take a step back and like look big picture of it. Yeah, that was a moment where I felt like this is how I can represent my chapter. I'm not someone who's going to try and compete in the sort of recreational activities a lot of times. Might be weird to say, but I would say that I'm a fragile person at times. I've broken a few bones doing some rather pedestrian recreational activities, if you will. So the way for me to contribute during Greek Week, and I knew it, was an academic level competition like the spelling bee. And it was probably one that I remember, like, no one was really too excited about going into it. I'm like, this is my Super Bowl for the week. And not just that, but like just for like a competition standpoint, like this is where I can put the chapter on my back against everybody else. And that was just to be in that room, and the brothers were going as loud as they were. I love that moment. I know Andrew, he's laughing too, but he was a part of that crowd just like you were, Owen, and that was just special to me. I mean, it's something that's what Greek Week's all about. Again, it kind of put the spotlight on myself for a second, and I felt like I did an honorable job whenever I was in that moment. I was proud to kind of have the cheerleading aspect of everybody else behind me in that stretch, because I am a competitive person, even if I'm not someone who does a lot of athletic stuff, and I don't like to lose more than I actually like winning, I think, a lot, and that's kind of in life in general. And I felt like that side of me finally got to surface in that moment, and it took 3.5 years to get to that point, but it was there.
Hey, it's what you live for, man. I mean, I think the crowd there was electric. I think I said it it was last week. I said that the energy in that room, Dolphin 51, that was the most energy I saw for almost any other event, I would say, other than lip sync. As you said, it literally was just you and Sean going round for round, bar for bar, and, so much respect for Sean for what he did, and ultimately, he was able to do, succeed and win that competition. But Sean's a great guy, and I was rooting for both. I was rooting for both of you. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased. I want us to win, but Sean's a good friend of mine, so much respect to him. But I'll pass things back over to you.
Well, I'll say this as well. Like, not even thinking about Greek Week in general, but this is more of a friendship aspect. A lot of moments that come to mind throughout the year. This is one that constantly comes back. So, if you go back to Week 5 in the NFL season, so This was when, I'm a Patriots fan. We talk about our football a little bit on the show, but this is a classic story as far as like where Greek life becomes fun. It was not a great week for our chapter. I just say that, like I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but I would just say like it was overall just not a pleasant week. Just different things didn't go too well, but those issues had to be sorted out, kind of in an, I don't want to say ugly way, but just in a difficult way during our meetings and whatnot. But going into that evening, so it was the Patriots were playing the Bills, and that was something I was excited for the game. I was excited to watch it. I was excited to watch it at the house. Knew the Patriots had a chance to win. They were the underdogs. And being in a fraternity of 50-some people, I'm one of multiple Patriots fans. So Ryan Carter, Chris Hollander, Gian, Troy, like that would have been us 5. But there were also other people at the house, and we got to like watch the Patriots game on Sunday night, like prime time, just sit around in the living room and just watch that game. And it was just so fun. Like I'd always kind of, whenever I went to college, my hope was always, I just hope I get to just sit around and just watch football with a group of guys on Sunday afternoon. I got bored. Like I got bored at home because I never did that with my friends in high school, and I didn't enjoy that experience so much. So to be able to come here and do that, where it's a weekly thing just to watch football, and in that case, it was my team playing on primetime, so we were all watching that game. I was as emotionally into it as possible. I think I was so into it that I honestly made myself sick for the week after, because I was just the stress just starts going, and that sort of adrenaline spike picks up, and it's hard to kind of crawl back down from. Like I remember not being able to sleep that night. Like, but I was so excited to watch that game, but I was also excited just to be around my brothers for it. I know your preseason Baltimore Ravens story is up there on that list too, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean maybe I'll talk about it after the break.
Yeah,
I mean that is definitely one of my key college memories that I'll never forget.
Well, yeah, we will cut out here for a second, so we have a lot more to go here on Greek Speak, the final episode of the year. We thank you all, obviously, for listening to this, but we'll be back in just a moment. We are back on Greek Speak here as we start rounding the corner. We're past the halfway point on the program for this week. I guess I talked a little bit about 2 of my favorite memories. So one was very Greek life oriented, one was just the friendship aspect of being in this organization. But Andrew, what do you got for that answer? I guess things from this year that you were pretty you absolutely enjoyed.
Man, there's a lot. I tried to do my best to soak it all in. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with graduation coming up, and coming in, I knew it was my last semester, and as I said, I wanted to make it a goal to interact with as many people as possible. But we've had some great events. I go back to homecoming from last year. Riding in the back of Tice's truck for the homecoming parade, I thought was so much fun. It's a beautiful truck, I must say, but that's one of the benefits. There's very few benefits. LOL, I'm just kidding. There's lots of benefits, but some would say that the only benefit of being on EC is that you get to ride in the back of the pickup truck over the homecoming parade. But
which it is, I would like to say.
Yes, some would say. I mean, I'm also one of the older brothers, so I'll be in there anyway. So, and I don't want to walk. What?
Tyler and Owen, you guys didn't get on the pickup truck.
Absolutely not. I was furious, man. I wanted to be on that pickup truck. That nice truck Tice has, man.
I didn't know about that benefit, but I will be utilizing it next year.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
But the job.
That's definitely a fun one. And it was also nice. Obviously, Kappa Sigma does the dunk tank every year.
Yeah.
And me being one of the older brothers, and I think there was 4 or 5 guys. I think it was Burrows, Brody, Jordan. For some reason, they weren't there. So it went Jack, and then it went me. So I was the second one to go in there. So I was able to get it done early, not have to go into that dirty water.
Yeah, while the water level was still high enough.
Exactly. I mean, I probably half the water was probably gone after me, but I long story short, I did see them come back over with the hose, fill it back up.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. But that was a lot of fun. Another fun memory that I had was intramural basketball this year. This was one of our best intramural basketball teams that we've had. Definitely the best that I've seen in my time. We've always been, we've been terrible. We've never won more than a game or two. And this year we actually had a first-round bye, I believe. And it was just so much fun. Luke and I were the coaches, Luke Hilligus and myself. And they always made jokes that I was like the assistant coach that was completely cool with being an assistant coach for like 50 years. But one cool memory that I have was Luke was unable to attend a game, and I stepped in as head coach, and that was so much fun. And I remember putting, so much energy into it. I was sweating. I mean, that's not really a shocker, but I was sweating, and those guys played so hard for me. And I remember telling them, like, if I take you out, it's not personal. Like, I want to win. We're all here to win. And everyone went out there and they played their hearts out, and it was a blast. So intramural basketball was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Overall, just kind of days at the house, watching sports have just been my favorite part about getting together. We just had a house cleanup last week prior to our Founders Day, and I always find this interesting, because we get split into random groups, and Owen and I were actually in the same group. I think we got the worst task of them all, but the basement was disgusting, but it's all good.
Fixed it up though.
But I was told that ours looked the best out of anyone. I mean, yes, we were down there for hours. I swear I was sweeping for like an hour, and I was just going in the same spot. So I just don't understand. But I found that very valuable because I was able to interact with brothers that maybe I don't get to see on the day-to-day. When we get and have these brotherhood events and stuff, you're usually with your fam line or something like that. But this event was fun because it was just randomly generated. I was with Owen, Mason, Connor Beck, just to name a few, and I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know about you, Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Actually, it was like half my family line that was down there, interestingly. It was just kind of a random split. But no, yeah, you were sweeping down there for a minute. I mean, although you told me you sweep the stairs, you did not sweep those stairs.
How do you guys... so here's another one I got in the memory hole. I mean, this is multiple times, but I love our Saga sushi trips. Tyler, you ever go on those?
I have never been on a Saga sushi trip.
You're missing out.
Yeah, I am. I heard I've been missing out.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever recalled you being there, but here's the thing. I mean, it's a fun. I don't want to say gag, but it's just a tradition of sorts that we'll just pile into that restaurant 15, 20 people deep and just enjoy the food. And I'm someone who really enjoys Japanese food, like buffet style Japanese food, Chinese food. It's always something I've craved, and so to be able to go to that restaurant and just enjoy that is wonderful. But I'd say here's another moment that stuck out for me, and I'm sure you guys have all done this at different points. So if you guys have ever brought a friend outside of the university to Shippensburg and show them the house. I don't know if you had a chance to do that yet, but I got to do that this past year. One of my friends that I met last summer when I was in Washington, D.C., he actually visited this weekend, not this weekend, sorry, several weekends ago in February, but just it was a way for worlds to collide, and I enjoyed that experience thoroughly because he got to see a different side of me, but also probably a side of me that explains a lot. This is where I come from. A very different school than the one he'd go to, and a very different culture than the one that both of us would have been around last summer. And he's one of my greatest friends, so I was proud to introduce this place to him. And I would say this is I'm hoping to return a favor whenever I go back to Washington D.C. this summer for the guys in our chapter. I want you guys to experience this too. So it goes both ways in that sense. But that was just a great moment for me. I want to also talk the professional side of Greek life and how I think, and it's not just professional, but just character-wise. It's difficult to articulate to people outside of Greek life, and this is the area we struggle with. I think this is also the roots of why doing a show like this matters, is that there's got to be a way for people in Greek life to explain in as clearly and as deliberately a way as possible what it means to be a part of Greek life and why those who aren't in it, even if they don't need to join it themselves, why they should at least respect why someone else would join it. And Andrew, I'm sure you have a litany of thoughts on this subject, but I would just say for me is there is a skill in interacting with people, simply put. And I've compared this before different times on the show, but my experience in Washington, D.C. last summer was very similar to how a fraternity operates, but it's in a very professional manner. And that is a town where your respect is certainly earned, not given. It is you have to pay your dues. You learn by kind of starting off. I don't want to say bottom of the totem pole, but you start off sort of towards those lower level jobs. But those jobs, they're still very significant and essential to the operations of whatever organizations or offices you're supporting. But again, that's how you learn, and then you keep building knowledge and you keep developing your skills and your attributes to rise through the ranks professionally. Think about how Greek life goes. You have a new member experience for a reason, because the chapter needs to assess your qualifications and you need to assess the chapter yourself. And you also need to develop as a person through that experience. And you eventually get involved, you find your niche, you figure out like where your talents are best suited to support the organization. A lot of times it's what you get from it is what you put into it. So if you don't put in a lot of effort, you don't put a lot of enthusiasm and integrity into the things you're doing in the organization, you're not going to get the best experience. Same thing that I would have seen last summer, and I'm expecting to see this summer again, is that who you are as a person absolutely matters in a town like Washington, D.C., and I that's what I love about it. So seeing those professional development, like that stuff, Kappa Sigma made me ready to go to D.C. last summer, and it's going to make me ready to return, simply put.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. I think that's a great statement. And, I look back on my last, 3 to 4 years here at the university, and I look back of who I was when I first came here. I believe it was, you would know this, it was probably like August 16th or August 18th. It was one of those dates.
18th, 2022. August 18th, yes.
August 18th, 2022 was a Thursday. I feel like I'm you with that stat. But just looking back at who I was then compared to right now, I'm a completely different person. And, I credit, the things I've learned in the university, whether it's, just being here on campus or, things I've learned in the classroom, but especially within Kappa Sigma and also within student media as well. But Kappa Sigma has really given me the confidence. I went to a college prep school for high school. We took 4 years of leadership, so it was a leadership course every year. And, each class was focused on different aspects of leadership. And leadership was always something that interested me. I just never really knew how to apply it. And, joining the organization and, them really handing me the keys to the kingdom and giving me every opportunity to succeed. I give a lot of credit to Trenton Klauser, Brandon Akers, Jonathan Hinderleiter. Those are people that I give a lot of kudos to. But, those are the people that believed in me and gave me a chance to get on social, help out with recruitment, public relations. That was another area that really I really got to watch myself grow up in a sense. And then obviously I transitioned into the executive committee where I served for the last 2 years. I mean, this fraternity sent me to New Orleans, Louisiana, Las Vegas, Nevada. And the one for Vegas was a lot different because I was working there. And, I was taking videos. I was responsible for putting maybe 10 different videos together for this national conference in front of probably 2,000 people. That's extremely intimidating. And, and then walking around with a camera there. There was a gimbal that I had, and, it was really fun. I got to walk around in front of people, kind of hype them up, be like, oh, I'll do this for the shot. So, but honestly, I don't think I would have done this show without Kappa Sigma. And yes, you can say because, it's Greek life. I don't even know if I would have ever done a talk show without Kappa Sigma because it gave me the opportunity and the confidence to speak professionally. Obviously, here we are on live air. I would have never thought I would have been talking on live air 4 years ago.
And I'll tell you a step further than that. I've always been someone who's been interested in news, politics, current events, and what have you. And I did that experience a lot at the Slate, and I wrote some articles like first year, second year. Got busy in other ways, and that's okay. Did a lot more editing than I was doing writing there. But one of the things this show ultimately led to happening was I proved that I could talk behind a microphone, and hence I became a news director this semester. Without Kappa Sigma, we don't do this show. Without me doing this show, I'm not the news director of the station, and I don't get to report on the world's events. And that was just as much as Greek Speak. It's been a pleasure of mine to do. Being the news director has been another thing that I've absolutely enjoyed because, again, gives me a chance to read on air. I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, every top of the hour, like on the school bus or whatever, like I was on the bus between a transition from like 7:59 to 8:01, top of the hour for the station that the bus driver always had on. It was the news, and it was just reading news bulletins. I remember thinking, like, oh, I'd love to do this one day. Like, this sounds great. And just being able to, I don't even want to say imitate, but it was replicating. It was doing exactly what they did and exactly what I got to hear growing up, and like I enjoyed that. And I always had a knack for broadcasting, too, because my first ever career interest, before I did the politics stuff, before I did the journalism stuff, I wanted to be a weatherman. And I enjoyed following the weather. I got to take a weather and climate general education class this semester with Professor Timothy Hawkins. But hands down, unequivocally, the best general education course I've ever had. I was interested in the subject naturally, so that helped, obviously. But just, I learned so much in that class, number one. But secondly, just to be able to learn about weather, something that was kind of my early years passion when I was 7 or 8 years old, going on the radar screens and looking at the storms and seeing the colorful maps and seeing where the big bad storms and the hurricanes were going and the tornadoes. Like, to be able to talk about, even just talking about the weather, whether it's this show or even when it's on my news hour segments, was just something I enjoyed. So it was a full circle moment. This studio gave me the chance to do it. And I'm thankful in that sense, but I'm also, like I said, it's owed to Kappa Sigma. It's owed to Bridget Allen. It's owed to Jenna Cornell for giving us this platform to say, hey, have a show. You get on air. Tell your story. And we got to do that for the past 2 years, and I got to expand on that passion more than I would have anticipated. I don't know if you have any more things to add here, Andrew. We can also take a quick time out here as we wind down the show. So we have a few more minutes to go. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back, I guess, with maybe we'll just say closing remarks, if you will, here on Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. We're back on Greek Speak here for the closing segment for our second year of doing this show, and for Andrew and I, it's our final episode ever. So, Owen and Tyler, I imagine you might have some questions here. We'll try and rein you back into the show as we close, but do you have some questions for us?
I don't really have any questions. I just want to say, congratulations on almost finishing school, guys. Yeah. That is a huge accomplishment. I think you guys really got to put that into perspective, that finishing college is a lot of work, and I think that's a really proud moment. 2, this show, to give me and Owen the opportunity to take this over and, have our fun with it and have our creative time with it. And I just, I just want to say thank you to you guys. You guys have been such great mentors to me and through my process and everything. Yeah, I just appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Owen.
I think my number one question that I've had on my mind with you guys sharing all these stories throughout the past 2, 3, 4 years, everything that you've went through, everything that you've learned, what is the pinnacle of your college experience? What is the best experience? What is the biggest thing you've learned? Whatever your pinnacle is, I just want to hear that.
I have my answer. Okay, so it was a bold decision for me to come here and study political science. That's just the reality. That it's a major that sometimes there is a reputation that maybe it's not the most conducive one for a strong professional career. But I knew I had an interest in politics and wanted to explore that interest professionally. I was a strong writer, in my opinion, a decent enough communicator to where I also had that nagging interest and wanted to somehow combine both of those passions. I come to Shippensburg, start studying political science, and I had a good opportunity at the end of my freshman year, was pursuing student media, so picked up public relations as a second major. But I will tell you this story is, I don't know if I've said this on air before, I think I might have once. But this was in April of 2024. I was in Washington, D.C. for a conference, and that was after I faced a number of rejections for internships going into that summer. And I remember being in D.C. and thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to get my shot in this town. I just wasn't sure, and I remember thinking, I've wanted this place for years, and maybe just some things aren't meant to be, and maybe I'm not meant to be in this city one day. Just because I didn't think that was the direction my life was going to be taking me. I got an outstanding opportunity summer of 2024 to work in Harrisburg, which to change that trajectory, of course. More things fell into place. Some of it was fate. Some of it was just random luck. I made a decision to apply for an internship at a PR firm in spring of 2025, so I did that application in the fall. And that internship, much thanks to the supervisor at that internship and other people who had helped me along the way, led to me receiving an opportunity to intern in D.C. Last summer. And I will have a similar opportunity, of course, again. That being said, whenever I found out I was going to D.C. last summer, I was with 4 people in this fraternity. I was with Andrew, I was with Lucy, I was with Chris, and I was with Luke Hilgus. And they were right there with me whenever I found out that I was going to Congress. And to be in that city last year, there wasn't a day that went by where I knew I wasn't living the dream that I didn't even think that I myself was ever going to get. That, to me, was the pinnacle, was when I found out I was going there to get my opportunity. I remember my reaction. I remember being, again, those 4 people. It's a flashbulb memory. That was the pinnacle, sort of I've made it. I don't know what it would lead to. Like, I didn't know what it would lead to, and I still don't know the answer to that always today. But no matter what happens for the rest of my life, I can say that I got to live the dream that I had, and that was to work inside the halls of Congress. And that was the pinnacle for me, and I'm so glad I got to experience that feeling, that initial feeling with people in this organization.
I don't even know how I'm supposed to follow that up. We're going to have completely different answers, obviously going down 2 different career paths. The pinnacle for me has just, it's kind of broad, but has just been to sit back and just watch the growth and development of our chapter as a whole, but specifically members within our chapter. My dad and I actually were just talking about this the other day. I was talking to him about how I was, I didn't really know how I was feeling about how my term was over. And, I was talking about how multiple people had, they talked to me Sunday of installation and then Monday, and they were just like, they were just checking in, like, hey, how's it going? And, here it is Friday, almost a week later, and I still don't know. I don't know. It's weird. But that's just, I'm getting ready to go into the world of unknowns. But long story short, I was talking to my dad about the, development of the chapter, development of myself. He was like, where was the chapter when you started? It was at 20 members. We had our 20 members, but I would say there was the exec board, and I would say there's probably 2 or 3 guys underneath that actually cared about anything. No disrespect to any of those members, but, we were in a much different place. Here we are 3 years later. We were at 61 members. We have an outstanding executive board coming in. I mean, when I was my first 2 years, there was an election, but no one ran against each other. I ran unopposed my first term. When I first got in, the whole e-board pretty much re-ran, and their election campaign was, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm running for this again. Please vote me." And they sat down. I know a lot of people complain about how long our election process goes. Yeah, I mean, we had to split it into 2 days, back-to-back years. But, it just brings a smile to my face knowing how far it's come. And, the development of so many members that, I've seen throughout the times. And, I guess I am getting a little emotional here. But, it's just, I'm just so proud of, every member of the organization and, where it is today. Because it was not like that. And I remember when I first joined, it was, we're going to make a change. It was myself, it was Michael Burrows, and then, Luke Hill gets joined in the fall of 2023. And, we won, I believe it was like 8 awards as a chapter, chapter and individual goals or individual awards at the Student Life Awards. And, I mean, holy crap, man. I mean, that was just one of the best experiences of my life. And, I'm very sad that this chapter of my life is coming to an end, and it hasn't really hit me yet, and maybe it's hitting me right now. I don't know, but just the overall growth of the chapter and the members. I mean, Drew Williams, that's a guy that didn't even want to join, and I was so on him. I was like, I remember I called him. I was texting him on a plane. I was on the way back from New Orleans, and I texted him. I wanted that guy, and I knew what he could be, and I knew he was a leader before he was even a member, before he was even interested. I knew what he could become. And I'm just so proud of everyone. But I'll pass things back over.
Yeah. Well, I think we're pushing our window here. Unfortunately, we're already a minute over, but I think we've earned a little bit of extra time. I think for ourselves. Not to be arrogant about it in that sense, but I feel again. There's another thing I want to say here, but. Being in this studio and being on this show was a privilege. There's never an easier way to get on radio than to join a student media organization in college. And I think that's the one thing I've thought about in this last semester is, there's a little bit of regret perhaps of the opportunities I didn't get to do, because you realize that but whenever you're in the real world, you can't just walk into a radio station and say, I'm just going to run a show and call it a day. It's not that simple. But I would also say is that Greek Speak itself, just to kind of close it on this show specifically, I am friends with people in other Greek organizations because of this show. Because of the people that Andrew has worked hard to bring into this studio, I have not been always the one to connect closely with other Greek organizations, but this show gave me that outlet. People on this campus know who I am because of this show, and I've talked about like how that, what that means to me. But I have a lot of friends that have come through here now because of this. Derek Whitmer, I consider to be a really good friend of mine. Even Sean from PSK, like having talked to him before on this show, and then competing against him, like that was a full circle moment. Izzy Kemp, an absolutely wonderful leader of Delta Zeta, and her involvement in Greek life is outstanding. Her being on the show, it deepened connections with people like Michael Luzzi, Drew Williams, and the list goes on. And I apologize to all who I've forgotten whenever I talk about this, because for those of you listening, whatever Greek life you come from, I just want to say thank you. I want to thank you for giving me an hour of your time, whether it was just today or for the past 44 episodes. And it's been an honor to speak with you, and it's been an honor to be your friend. So I don't want to lose those connections I graduate, but I know that things do evolve. But I appreciate what the past 2 years of running this show and being a part of Greek life have meant to my life in its entirety. And it is hard to sign off this final time, but we're at 5:58, it's 5:59 actually, so I think we ought to do it here. But that will wrap it up on Greek Speak. For Andrew and I, again, absolute pleasure talking with you every single Friday at 5 o'clock this year. Taylor Senkowski, Owen Henning, we wish you both the best of luck. And for those of you listening, we thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. And until next time we speak again, take care.